Point.
We're living in a modern age of the new psychedelic renaissance.
And I thought, this is not real. This is, my gosh, I'm on the radio. People hear me.
How we give to others and affect others' lives, and what we do with it is important.
Don't focus on the rest of the world, just focus on your own life.
And facts can't deal with emotions. It's like apples and oranges.
Bronze Age and Iron Age, I think it all could all be called the Wood Age.
You're not picking a president, you're actually picking a roommate.
Because you don't know what their story is. You don't know what pain they're dealing with.
Always part of me wanted an audience.
It's naive to think that human beings have stopped evolving.
The people are purple.
The world is a very rich place if you start exploring.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the podcast Point Counterpoint. I'm your host, Chris Wright. This is a Counterpoint media production. Today, I brought on to the show Bracha Goetz. Am I saying that right?
Well, I say it Bracha Goetz, but yeah, thank you.
All right. So, would you like to introduce yourself here? What are you?
Okay, sure. I'm the author of 41 books that help children's souls to shine. That's what they all have in common. And also one memoir about, that's the only book for adults, about my journey in my spiritual journey, my journey to joy. Yeah.
Very good. Would you like to start talking about what's your origin story? Like what got you interested in writing these books? What that started this journey for you?
I tried to write the books that I wanted to have as a child. Books that explain the world in a spiritual way, and books that teach children happiness skills early on in life so they don't have to play catch up the rest of their lives. But also, like, I studied at Harvard, and when I was an undergraduate, I took courses at the Graduate School of Public Health and Harvard Medical School because I love public health, and I feel having a healthy body is also a part of letting your soul shine fully. So some of my books are about like healthy eating, why should we eat healthfully, exercise, books about swimming safely, and books about the prevention of abuse. Because if a child goes through abuse as a child, it puts a huge covering over their soul, so their soul can't shine as brightly. So I have books like that, and books just focusing on being a spiritual being and how to experience happiness in life and gratitude. And like the Invisible Book, it's about all the things we believe in that are invisible, like gravity. You drop something, it falls, you let go of it, there's an invisible force. Feelings and thoughts and time, they're all invisible, and yet we believe in them. So showing a child it's not far-fetched to believe that we too are invisible. In essence, we're spiritual beings, we're souls, and there's an invisible God. We see the effects of all these things, even though we don't actually see. We don't see the gravity, we don't see the feelings, we don't see God, we don't see our souls, but we see the effects of them in this world.
Excellent. I'd like to touch on something you said. You mentioned the importance of taking care of the body and to take care of the soul. But it's very similar to the classic Aristotelian idea that we are not just souls, we're not just bodies, but we're the holomorphic union of the body and soul together. We are everything, and so to take care of one is to take care of both.
Yes, we are. The real self is a spiritual being, but we were put on this earth in a physical body. That's the clothing for our soul, to interact in this world and to reveal the sparks of spirituality in everything that exists. Every other creation that God has made, we are here to reveal those sparks and to get our souls to shine as fully as possible in this world. We're here for just a limited amount of time in this physical existence to do that.
Very good. And would you say that these they're children's books? Would you say that there's also they also have something to bring to adults as well? Because it reminds me of this. There's this quote by C.S. Lewis. It says, "A children's story that can only be enjoyed by children is not a good children's story in the slightest." But I think
exactly
there's something very essential. Something so important, even within the simplest of fairy tales and stories, that can be experienced at higher and higher levels, as you progress through life.
You got it exactly. That is how you can tell a good children's book, if it interests the parents as well, because usually children want the books read to them again and again. And, the parents can't get sick of it either. It has to be interesting on many different levels. So that's what I love to do. People will ask, like, why is a Harvard grad writing basic picture books for children? Those are my favorite books, to distill the essence, to take deep and complex subjects and make them as simple and joyful and clear as possible so that a child can understand them. But the thing with children's books, like you're saying, it's the only kind of book that's read by every age. It's read by the little children. It's read by the parents reading it to them, teachers, grandparents, and even teenagers. They see the books lying around and they'll read them when no one's looking. So everybody can absorb the messages from children's books, which like you said, like Dr. Seuss, like these books can be loved on many different levels.
Yeah,
right?
Because even though they're fictional stories, they still show a more profound, higher level of truth, a more meta truth. They show reality how it is on another level. So you can Tom Sawyer, Treasure Island. These are all children's stories, but they can be enjoyed at different ages in different ways.
Exactly.
Or even outside of the realm of books. If you look at SpongeBob or something, it's something where children enjoy it, but even older people can still enjoy it in different ways, and they're able
exactly
to understand
and
different nuances that maybe a younger child didn't get it at first.
Exactly. When you read it, you keep reading the books on different levels. You understand it on different levels as you mature. That's exactly how it works. And when you write a children's book, it can get right to their soul and make an imprint on their soul early on, which is why I just feel it's such an important medium to reach our children and give them the tools, the guidelines for how to live life in a joyful way as early as we can.
I'm quite interested in the book you mentioned on all the invisible things. So what would you like to go more into detail on that?
Yeah. Oh, here it is. Wait a minute. The Invisible Book. Yeah. Basically,
the invisible book that's visible.
Yes, exactly. Like one of the things is electromagnetism. Why does a magnet pick up a paperclip? That's one I didn't mention. It's an invisible force. A child sees this happening in their life. What's going on? So there's all these forces working all the time.
We can't see it, but we know that it exists within reality. Yeah.
Exactly. We totally accept that. So, it's really just the ego that pushes God away, edging God out.
We can still measure the effects of it very clearly.
Exactly. We can still measure the effects. That's what we do. We're here seeing the effects of all these things. Yes. And yeah, it's gravity. It's the wind is blowing, the air. the magnet, the boy with the magnet, and the feelings that we have. And that's what it's saying. What's going on in this world? All these things that were created. Who makes the babies and the flowers grow? Who makes the whole world run just so? We can't see God. That may be, but look what God does for you and me. You know, it's endless. But yet, if you don't want to see it, then you don't see it. So this is just opening children's eyes to be able to see it. That's what I wanted to see as a child. I wasn't brought up with a spiritual understanding, and I kept searching for it for years, desperately searching. What it manifested for me in symptoms of food addictions. So, addictions basically is when a person's trying to fill the emptiness inside with externalities. And the emptier a person feels, the more desperately they try to bring in these externalities to cover up that hole. And it doesn't last long. So the addictions get stronger and stronger. And that's what happened to me, because I had no idea how to fill the emptiness. I did not know that that hole was a spiritual hole, and that's what fills it, spiritual nourishment.
Yeah, exactly. There's that innate, very profound desire for God that's present in all of us, and that's why I like to say that there are very few true atheists. That, you know, they have other names for God, but they always look at one thing within nature and call it that God. So it might be money, they might just call it a force or an energy, but they always call it something. It might be a mistaken theology or whatever, but they always look to something.
Yes.
Greater, because humans are naturally religious. It's part of our lot in life. So, you know, we have natural urges. You know, we have a desire to. This C.S. Lewis has had this argument before, and there's early church fathers as well talk about this. But we have this we have natural desires to eat, to drink, to have, you know, within nature, and so it goes to show that we also have the natural inclination towards God, and so, but while food, there's diminishing returns. So, you know, you have to keep eating more in order to keep getting that satisfaction. But that's because it's all finite. Whereas God, the infinite, there are no diminishing returns, because that only is for the finite, where you have to keep having more of a finite thing to keep getting finite.
I see. That makes sense.
Returns versus
Yes.
is eternal.
Yeah. So what I learned about something called the pleasure ladder. That the lowest level, it's got 5 rungs on it, which I think correspond to our 5 fingers. In other words, we could bring pleasure into our lives at any moment. We have that ability. And the 5 rungs on the pleasure ladder, they correspond to the 5 levels of the human soul. And the lowest level of the soul is the part of the soul that's connected to the body. And so when we partake of all these things that were designed to be pleasurable, like the natural foods that God made, being in nature, music, exercise, dancing, swimming, all of these things that are sensual pleasures, they are designed to bring pleasure to the body and to the soul if we experience them with gratitude. That's the missing ingredient. If we don't experience that gratitude, then it doesn't nourish our soul as well. That's what changes it all. So every rung on the pleasure ladder, the price we pay to experience it is gratitude. The next level up, and the next level of our soul up is love. Love is the next level is focusing on the virtues of another. Here on the lowest physical level, we focus on the virtues of a thing, like an orange, something, a basic natural pleasure that God made to give us pleasure in this world. And here we're focusing on another being. And then and we could, and it's not dependent on anybody, because like even in prison, a person could focus on the virtues of a grandmother that once did a kindness for them and be uplifted with that warm emotional feeling of love. So we can bring it into our lives. And the next level up is meaning, doing something good and meaningful, where that's a more lasting soul pleasure again. And here again, we give back in gratitude. Like I was on another show, and the guy said he ate 2 slices of pizza, and he was feeling lonely and estranged, and he was going to just plow through the whole box of pizza. And someone knocks on his door. His neighbor needs his help. When he comes back, he doesn't want the rest of the pizza. He's filled up. He's filled up by doing something meaningful. And then he could put the rest of the pizza in the fridge for the next day. So this is what really fills us up. And higher than that is creativity. When we are being creative, we don't feel like eating or sleeping. We're in a zone of such intense pleasure. And the highest is transcendence. When we transcend our own limitations, we make that first crack in a bad habit, and we recognize how we're all connected to the same source, and we're all connected to each other. We transcend all the limitations. So all of this, the price to pay is gratitude, to experience all these levels of pleasure in life. And that's really what I learned is what we're here to do in life, is to experience gratitude. We were just created because, like a parent wants to give their child pleasure, the most pleasure possible. And that's what God wanted to give us. So it just provides a framework. If a person is stuck in an addiction, they feel there's a scarcity of pleasure. And this shows that there's an abundance of pleasure available to us at any moment.
Very good. You talked about food addictions. Would you mind going into that a little bit, a little more your personal history and how that has shaped your thinking?
Yes. It began, and my memoir is called Nourish the Soul. It's my journey from age 12 to 32 of you. It's based on actual diary entries and journals and letters. So it's like a documentary, and you see how I gradually developed the food addictions and then how I healed from it. Putting the book together, I actually saw the thread that tied it all together. I finally understood why, when I finally was able to find the wisdom to nourish my hungry soul, why did the food addictions go away? There was no longer a need for them. What I was doing was like very restrictive dieting, fluctuating with like uncontrollable binge eating. It was one or the other. And it was a horrible way to live. An addiction is like a prison, and the walls get narrower and narrower the more a person gets into the addiction, and everything is done in secret, so nobody knows how you're suffering. So even though I was at Harvard and things were getting worse, it has nothing to do with an intellectual understanding, because that wasn't helping me. I was even researching these types of addictions. It wasn't helping me to get better. I was getting worse, sicker and sicker. It wasn't until I was able to actually fill my starving soul that I was able to recover.
Mm-hmm. How would you describe the experience with filling up those desires with food, like with dieting, with binge eating? Would you? It wasn't. It was. You certainly weren't fulfilled in the long term. But would you describe it like exactly? What was your more immediate sensory experience?
When I was dieting, it gave me a sense of control because I felt like the world was out of control. I had no control. It was that feeling, oh, so I have a sense of control, you know. But then how long could that last, And I'd be so hungry. And then it would be these terrible binges. It had nothing to do with being physically hungry. It was totally a force inside of me, out of fear, out of a sense of wanting control, out of a loss of trust. I didn't trust the world. I didn't trust myself. My life, it looked like I was a success on the outside, but I didn't even trust myself or trust the world or want to keep living. It's hard to believe, but because I didn't understand the purpose of life, my life meant little to me at that point in time. So, like if I met someone in a bar and a guy would want to drive me home drunk, my life didn't matter to me. Like that would just happen. My values were gone. The world felt gray. It lost all the colors. So that's how it felt in this prison of addiction.
It led to a sense of nihilism, a sense of loss of control. You're constantly searching for some little bit of meaning, some little bit of control that you can have over your life.
Yes. And I gave up.
It's kind of like the quote from the Confessions. You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it rests in you.
It's a sense of despondency. You just kind of give up after a while. You don't really care because you don't see any purpose to it all. Why struggle? Why make an effort? I remember I was describing it that people would get up every day to go to work, to make money, to buy food, to get up, to go to work. Why? Without a spiritual understanding, it was all meaningless. That much I could see, and I really didn't want to be part of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I think this is a great thing you're doing. It's helping people to find that bit of meaning within life, to try to have that concrete grasp on reality, to be able to acknowledge what you can control, what you can't control, and be able to have that sense.
Exactly. Make it really clear to people. This is a world. We were given this amazing garden, but we've made things so complicated, Really, this was all given to us in gratitude. The beautiful tree outside my window, it's giving me the oxygen I need. We're giving it the carbon dioxide. It's like this incredible symbiotic relationship we have with the vegetation, with the animals, this incredible world. But we've in our sense of wanting to control things. I love that expression of ego. Ego is edging God out of the picture. The more we put our ego in, the less gratitude we have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, insanity is trying to cram the entire cosmos into your own mind. Whereas sometimes you just need to accept that some of it is bigger than yourself. You have to
Beautiful.
acknowledge that.
Beautiful.
What is one of the main driving forces in your life? What keeps you going?
It is that I'm so grateful for all the blessings that have come my way, that I've been grateful that the purpose of life has been revealed to me, and that I'm getting now to share it with other people. The more I get to share it, it helps my soul to shine. So it's totally a pleasure, and I'm really just, I'm so grateful to be here and to be blessed to be able to share all this. That's the driving force. In Judaism, the first word we say when we wake up in the morning is thank you. That's part of our guidelines. Just grateful for another day of life.
How would you describe your spiritual routine? How do you get your spiritual fulfillment? What's your general routine?
Good question.
What's your spiritual method? Is a better way to say it. Yeah.
Yeah. The guidelines that I learned, I was born Jewish, but I wasn't taught the wisdom of my heritage. That's what I discovered as a young adult. And what I learned is that the word for Jewish is Yehudim. In the middle of that word is Hud, Yehudim. Hud, it's Hoda'ah, it's gratitude. The essence, we're the gratitude people. That's what we're doing all day long. From the minute we get up till we go to sleep, as I explained already, those are the first words out of our mouth. And all day long, we have different meditations to do to get our focus to be aware of all the gifts we're getting. We say blessings before we eat. Anything like an orange, we make a simple blessing. We say a blessing of thanks afterwards. After going to the bathroom, there's a blessing to make. Being grateful that our bodies are working right. All the tubes are working right. We're so blessed, It's about not taking things for granted. And for sure, not everybody, it's easy I could do these exercises by rote too and just forget the awareness. But they give us, these guidelines provide the opportunity to focus and have awareness and be a more grateful person all day long. So those are the different guidelines that I'm doing all day. There's blessings to say. We try to say 100 blessings a day about, about rainbows, about seeing the ocean, there's so many blessings to make. And that's what fills up my day.
Yehudim. So Hud is gratitude. What's the other two parts of the word?
Yehudim. Yehudim. Im at the end is just plural. So it's the people of gratitude. That's who we are. The Hoda'ah is actually the word for gratitude. And the word for gratitude is about recognition. It's recognizing, it's appreciating. That's what it's about. Recognizing the goodness in things. And that's recognizing God in everything. Yeah.
Because God is goodness itself. Yeah.
Yes.
Gratitude. It's a very important virtue to have. I also find this. You really experience life on a whole new level once you start. Acknowledging. Just acknowledging. The beauty in things and in God, everything.
Exactly.
It's a beautiful worldview to look at.
Yeah.
To
All the colors came back.
The good, the true, and the beautiful.
Yes, exactly. I feel like the pandemic was a huge push forward spiritually, the opportunity to be more grateful, because so many things we took for granted were suddenly lost, being with other people, gatherings, hugs, even, and our breath. It got down to our breath, to appreciate that we could breathe normally. And so overnight, I feel we got pushed forward in a spiritual evolutionary way, in a big way, kind of a revolutionary way with the pandemic, to become even more grateful people and not take our daily lives for granted.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was like that for me as well. I found it interesting the way that just how much of that stuff that you really take for granted, that you don't think about. I was thinking like, wow, that's really important. I didn't even think about that.
Exactly.
Most people would go, oh yeah, you could just get rid of it. It's like there's a thing called Chesterton's fence, and you imagine that you're walking through the woods and you come upon a street and there's a fence in your way. And you're like, oh, this fence is in my way. I should take it down so I can cross the street more easily. But the idea is you shouldn't immediately take that fence down, because it until you know exactly what the purpose is of that fence.
Right.
Because you take it on without thinking about it, and you suddenly realize that there was other reasons that you weren't even aware of, that other functions that it was serving.
Beautiful.
You were taken for granted. So before taking down the fence, you have to realize, okay, what was this purpose? Is it still needed now? And then afterwards, you'll probably discover that you don't need to take it down anyway. But
Beautiful. Yes. Pausing and taking life more slowly and carefully, and with appreciation, right? Not discounting the fence. It's here for a reason, probably. Let's explore with curiosity why. Yeah.
it opens you up to that exploring mindset as well, to be able to look into the beauty of things, and to be more, to have more gratitude, to experience things on that higher level,
Yes.
that contemplative.
Yes.
Do you have any other final thoughts that you'd like to mention?
Let's see. Something my daughter said to me yesterday. This is your mind is a garden. Your thoughts are the seeds. You can grow flowers or you can grow weeds. I love that. Yeah. One of my books is Don't Read This Book. It's teaching children that there's a voice in our heads. All of us have it. That's trying to get us to focus on what we're lacking. Oh, I just need that toy. I just need that candy. And our job is to push it off. And that's how we grow our gratitude muscles, by exercising them, pushing off. It's like a dumbbell, that voice in our head. Oh, it's a dumbbell. And saying, I'm going to be grateful for what I have already. We exercise it. The more we exercise our gratitude muscles, the stronger they become. So we can learn this early on in childhood. That voice that's in all our heads, it actually was put there by God too. This is something I didn't realize until recently. That's why I finally finished this book, writing it, when I got this last piece of wisdom. That voice doesn't really want us to listen to it. It's put there by God so we can push it off and grow our gratitude muscles. And every minute, any moment that we're grateful is a moment that we're not being miserable. So just celebrate any moment of gratitude that you can experience.
Very good. What would you say is what was your favorite book of yours that you've written?
Okay.
The one that you maybe learned the most from, or the one that was the most interesting?
I'm gonna pick my memoir because it tells the whole story. It's very unusual because it's like a documentary, and it's kind of a psychological mystery. How do you overcome addictions and nourish your hungry soul? Because it's my own story, but I think it's a universal story. So I'm going to pick that, even though it's the only book I wrote for adults. But in terms of children, like the books about prevention of abuse, they are very popular and children love them, which I never expected. They're in about 150,000 homes, and they're really helping to save lives. So I'm very grateful about that. And then I'll pick my newest book because this book took me 30 years to write. It took so much wisdom went into it and to help children now to know how to bring gratitude into their lives. Yeah.
Could you go more into the don't read this book?
Yeah.
What's what was
Like, don't,
some of the main morals in there?
yeah, the don't read this book is it's that voice in our head saying, don't read this book, or you're gonna learn all my tricks. It's a fly. The fly, we try to shoo it away and it keeps coming back no matter. So this is how it works. We are going to learn that this voice is going to be in our heads throughout our lives. It's that impulsive voice trying to get us to be miserable. Focus on what you're lacking. Oh, you're missing this in life. When we recognize it's that voice, the minute we call it by its name, it loses its power. That's when it goes away, because recognizing, oh, you're that voice trying to make me miserable, then it loses its power. It's just when it's in there and we can't really tell, oh, who's talking, then we might listen to it. So this is giving children that power early on in life. So they'll know, oh, you're telling me, like, here's a girl, she's got all this candy. She's shopping in a store. Let me see if I could find that picture. But she's got all this stuff in her shopping cart. But she wants this one thing that she can't have, and she starts crying and being miserable. And so that's that voice. Be so grateful for all that you have. Refocus. And this, like you said from the beginning of our conversation, this applies to children and adults throughout their lives. When we recognize it's that voice trying to make us miserable, we can overcome it. That's when we gain the power over it.
You mentioned that you were surprised about some of the books about abuse and stuff being popular amongst children. Could you go into detail on that?
Yeah, because I didn't expect that this topic would be so popular among children. What I learned is they love the guidelines. When children have guidelines, they are less afraid of the world. They feel more secure interacting in the world when they have a clearer sense of how to interact in it. And that's what helped me. So I understand that. It explains to them, people offer you candy. First of all, children are usually not molested by strangers. Like over 95%, it's people they know and trust. Yeah. So it gives children a sense of to be less afraid of interacting in our world, because most molesters are not strangers. Stranger danger is not the reality. And so they learn that when people they know want to spend a lot of time alone with them or offer them a lot of treats, take them on treats, we have to be wary, and the parents have to be wary also, because molesters will try to groom the parents as well to get their trust and have alone time with the children. It's really important for children to be aware of all this. And as children read my books, it's prevented a lot of abuse from happening, because educating children in advance is what they need. That's being proactive is really important. Also, unfortunately, when parents read these books with the children, sometimes it will get the child to explain that something has already happened to them, which they never discussed with the parent before, but it creates an atmosphere where the discussion could be out in the open, and that's really important for a child to be able to express an instance that happened to them and let the parent know about it.
That's another thing that literature can do, is that it can open up, conversations to previous experiences, to help people kind of understand their past better,
Exactly.
clarify the present, and hopefully go into the future with more confidence.
Yes, exactly. It gets into the subconscious, children's books, and so it's valuable on so many levels, and it helps to be able to reach the soul more directly in a delightful way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Would you mind going more into that, about the way that it helps kind of dig deeper into the soul?
Like music can do that. Music, they say, is a gateway to the soul. Dance is another form. Imagination, when we don't just do it in an intellectual, logical, analytical way, I guess we utilize more elements of the right hemisphere of the brain too, and it helps with integration. I learned that it takes 400 repetitions to form new synapses in the brain. But if we do them joyfully, if we do a new habit joyfully, 10 to 20 repetitions, and we've got it down. So that's why the children's books are extremely helpful too. If you learn things in a joyful way, you can more readily implement it into your life, the lessons that you've learned.
Yeah, that imagination aspect is very important. It's like a kind of opening, like a portal, a door into this other world that you kind of immerse yourself in. It's very human. It's kind of what metaphor does. Is language normally has a certain limit, so certain words have certain meanings, but through metaphor, through art, you're able to kind of stretch those meanings out a little bit, make them stretch out a little bit more into the divine, a little bit more into the supernatural.
Beautiful, beautiful. And that's what humans have. I don't think any other creature has this imagination like we have. So yes, it's a big blessing. It could be used in negative ways as well, but to harness the imagination in a wonderful way, yeah, it's a great gift.
No, only humans can ponder, can think about
Yes.
Counterfactuals and whatnot.
Yes.
Well, thanks for coming on. I had a lovely discussion here. Thank you.
Thank you so
It's
much.
been Bracha Goetz. I'm the host, Chris Wright, Point Counterpoint, with Counterpoint Media Productions. Thank you.
Thank you.